quite often solutions are touted and then you realise that they're complete rubbish. Carbon capture. That I think that's now been debunked. You can't capture carbon, and you just need to stop making more carbon and put it into the environment.
Well, there is some form of carbon capture, but it runs at a very low percentage success. And generally, it's focused around extracting that carbon, from the fossil fuels at the point that they are extracted from the ground.
Right.
But we're looking at less than 15%. And then, of course, they're going to be refined and burned somewhere else, and we're going to deal with the problem. So at the moment, you're right, that's blue sky technology. And there are people who are using that excuse to great ends. And in the UK, we've got the issue of Drax Power Station, which is burning wood that's been harvested in other parts of the world from prime forest, destroying biodiversity, dragging it all across the oceans and burning it here on the pretext that they're making significant investments in carbon capture, and that will be the way forward. But it's not the way forward at the moment. And when you've got 5 years to deal with an issue, you don't bank on a technology that's not even there yet.
Yeah.
You cut down on that burning. You keep those fossil fuels in the ground.
But I mean, another one that springs to mind is offsetting. The only reason I mention that is just because occasionally, you hear people say, I'm taking a flight, but they're going to offset my miles. What? So what does that mean? They're going to plant some trees?
Plant some trees, yeah. Well, you look at a 200 or 300-year-old oak tree and you look at a sapling the size of my finger and you think, what are the chances of that sapling ever reaching that size at this point without extraordinarily care and nurturing through 300 years? Pretty slim, to be fair. And you think, what does that offer in terms of carbon capture and a resource for biodiversity, a sapling versus that magnificent giant tree, and it's next to nothing. So that's not an answer. It's part of a solution. We should be planting more trees, but it's not an excuse to carry on polluting. It doesn't work. Now, a few years ago, I investigated rigorously carbon offsetting because in a way, I wanted it to be real. I wanted to be able to fly and say, I've actually alleviated this. I've done something good. I never got to that point where I could believe in it. I had to just stop flying as regularly. No flying in the UK, no flying in Europe, limiting flights when it goes to work only overseas. And in my work with the environmental filmmakers that I work with, we've massively cut down the amount of carbon. It's the top of our agenda of all of our projects now. We've just done Springwatch. The whole thing was powered by hydrogen. Our only byproduct was water, because we are implementing that available technology. It's out there. Glastonbury could have been run by hydrogen. Wimbledon, the Euros, the whole lot could have been done.
That's really good to hear, because that is what I was trying to get at. It's like sometimes I wonder where actually are we in usable, effective right now technology when so many of the ideas that are pushed turn out to be rubbish, essentially.
Yeah.
But you're saying we could.
Yeah, well, we have that capacity and we've trialled and tested it. I mean, I've got to confess, like 5 years ago, we were running our diesel generators at the same time as the hydrogen.
Right.
We needed to test them to make sure they were going to work. We don't want to drop off air. We've got 2 million people wanting to find out what happens in a bird's nest. But now we trusted it entirely. We have no diesel whatsoever. The whole thing's powered by hydrogen. And when you think of let's think music festivals in the UK, enormously popular. A lot of people who are invested in the environment go to those things. Lots of young people whose future depend on a house and environment go there. I think it's wholly irresponsible that those people, you go around the back basically, which is where we get to go when we visit, and it's just masses of diesel generators. They're burning the planet to put rock on stage. I mean, no music on a dead planet, is there?